The second one, a lot of people go through anxiety in their life. So whatever might be the reason. So I'm hearing from the last 3 months that my very own friends are also feeling anxiety because what is happening around them. So one side because of the job security, or one side because if their family members are somewhere outside of the country, and we don't know what someone is going through and what they can do. I mean, if they're going through this kind of anxiety, what they can go through, or any kind of small tips that we can do so that they can reduce that anxiety among them. So any kind of suggestions or tips from your end, doctor, for this?
Well, firstly, when it comes to anxiety, anxiety always erupts when you're worried about either the past or when you're thinking about the future. Yes. So when your thoughts are in the past or in the future, there is a sense of anxiety. A lot of times when you live in the present, there is no anxiety. Mm-hmm. If I'm living in the present right now, I'm actually happy and grateful to a lot of things happening around me. It is only when I think about what is going to be tomorrow like, that is when anxiety erupts. So this anxiety is pretty much common during these times because it's not just this particular person, but the whole world is actually affected with this whole thing. But again, let us understand that we, the human beings, the most evolved species, have the capacity to adapt to situations.
Yes.
I always give this example. If you look at March, the number of COVID-19 cases were 500, and all of us were panicking, and we were worried. We were not having good enough sleep. But if you look at today, the number of cases are 5 lakhs, and all of us have started going out.
Yes.
Capacity of the human brain to adapt to an unfavorable situation. So, even these anxieties can be managed. Like I said, the brain has the capacity to adapt. A few ways to actually adapt is, one thing we need to understand is anxiety is again a psychological illness, which is because of some neurochemical changes that happen inside the brain. So like I was telling some time back, your brain has the inbuilt capacity to look positive, to think positive, to be happy, however the situation outside is. But now, sometimes when the brain is not having enough of its resources, that is when the brain becomes negative. So these resources are also called as neurochemicals, be it serotonin, be it dopamine.
That's where, if I remember, number one.
Okay.
So, be it serotonin, be it dopamine, be it norepinephrine, endorphins. So all these are the resources the brain actually needs to stay happy. So we need to understand that the underlying anxiety is because of the reduction in these resources, and our goal should be on increasing these resources. So one, medical management helps in increasing the resources. Two, a lot of activities, be it physical activity, meditation, yoga, mindfulness practices, all of them, focus on increasing the dopamine, serotonin in the brain. All of them focus on bringing you into the present and not letting you switch into the past or the future. And at some point, if some of your thoughts, which could be real, are distressing, your brain has the inbuilt capacity to filter them and push them into one corner, like how we put useless things or things that we're not using into our storerooms. Your brain pushes it to one corner so that it does not disrupt your day-to-day activity. So undoubtedly, a lot of these techniques help us relieve anxiety. And there are some muscle relaxation techniques which are available on YouTube. You call them as JPMR, Jacobson's Progressive Muscle Relaxation Techniques. So, they help you relieve it. And some dietary changes also, eating serotonin-rich diet, be it bananas, milk and milk products, nuts, dry fruits, sunlight therapy. So there are multiple resources which can actually help us face anxiety. And most of them that we've discussed are home remedies, so we can actually start off even before we consult a therapist.
Doctor, adding to that, is that overthinking and anxiety both are different? I mean, if someone who get anxiety plus also do overthinking, I mean, will they also need to follow the same kind of practices or any additional thing that they need to do?
Well, overthinking is again a part of anxiety. So there is a center inside the brain called as the thalamus. So this thalamus acts like, the water filters that we have at home. So the upper chamber has all the thoughts and the lower chamber has only the necessary thoughts. So the thalamus tries to filter a lot of thoughts and send only the useful thoughts or the current prioritized thoughts. Now when this thalamus is a little weaker, which happens in an anxiety or in an OCD, so that is when we keep getting these repetitive thoughts and we are not able to get a relief from these thoughts. So all the activities that we were discussing strengthens your thalamus as well as gives or produces that necessary feed which is required for the thalamus.
Gautam, you can just take any question.
Yeah. So basically, I just wanted to ask you, like during this lockdown, a lot of people are addicted to social media, like TikTok and stuff like that. So what is your opinion on what should they do really? Like, is it a cause for depression or is it also a cause?
Well, if you ask me about electronic media, I mean, it's proven to an extent where the brain has an extensive damage. Let me quote you one of the recent studies. This was done by the American Pediatric Association, and this study was done on 900 to 1,000 children between the age group of 10 to 18. This study was a 10-year long study. And after 10 years of observing children who are regularly exposed to electronic media or social media, the dangerous and shocking results that they found was the size of the brain started shrinking. So normally the size of the brain starts shrinking after the age of 65 to 70, which is called as dementia. So these shocking changes were happening in a 10-year-old, 12-year-old child. And the duration of exposure of screen was less than 200 minutes. So that was around 2 to 3 hours of exposure, and this was the damage that was happening into the child's brain. Some more interesting facts was, we human beings, when we call ourselves the most superior race, what makes us superior compared to mammals or the other animals is that we have a center inside our brain called as frontal lobe. So this frontal lobe is much developed in a human being compared to the other mammals. Now, what does this frontal lobe do? All the higher mental functions, I look at somebody without he telling me anything, I'm able to understand his expressions. These are called as non-verbal communications. Sometimes, we socialize. Sometimes we get angry, but we control our impulses. So all these are the superior functions what a human has, which, the other animals don't have. And unfortunately, that study said that this frontal lobe was thinning down or reducing in size. So the greatest ability what the human brain has is being compromised because of this electronic media. So that is the amount of damage actually what this electronic media does to the brain. And somewhere when this electronic media is more of social media, there is an added anxiety that adds up because that fear of missing out is something, FOMOs is something, the most common thing that we see. And at the same time, there is a very non-realistic jealousy that we develop. Somebody buys a car, I want to buy the same car. Somebody travels somewhere, I want to travel the same place. And the addiction is to such an extent, people feel that, they're missing out on something extremely important if they don't switch on the electronic media. So somewhere, all these emotions that this social media is giving us is damaging, is depleting, and it has adverse effects on the mental health. So we need to understand that screen time has to be minimized, and what we are using the screen also for is something important. Sometimes, people who work on laptops or nowadays school children, very unfortunate that they have to be exposed to a lot of screen time. But somewhere prioritizing what is important is the most important thing. Otherwise, it can actually take us back into that era where, beasts existed, and the human brain can become into a beast.
Doctor, you made an interesting point here. And when you talk about, right, so the current scenario from the last 10 days, from age group of 4 years, they're attending online classes, even it is in for 1 hour or 2 hours in a day. I mean, for me personally, I haven't learned anything online unless, there is no scope or something as such. Is it necessary for a 4-year or 5-year-old kid to go online? That is even 1 hour or 2 hours. Do you think that how they can do? Maybe in future they will be addicted completely towards online classes, or what is the kind of mindset they might be undergoing? If you have got any of these kind of cases recently.
Well, undoubtedly, we've been dealing with a lot of these cases, and this surely has adverse effects on the child's brain. Because one, we need to understand that the blue radiation itself is extremely dangerous, and this kind of teaching is going to compromise on a lot of functions, or a lot of capacities that the child learns normally when he goes to the school. See, because schooling is not just about learning, but it's about following a discipline and making friends, socializing. There is a playtime where you go onto the ground and sweat it out. So all these capacities have been reduced right now, and it has a depleting effect on the child's eyes also, this radiation. But again, frankly talking, I've never been a very big fan of the whole education system also. Grading, giving marks, telling that somebody failed, telling that somebody passed. I think this is extremely wrong. It has bad effects, and if you look at back into the culture, the Hindu culture or the Indian culture, if you talk about, when you talk about the concepts of how a gurukulam or a gurukula used to exist, there were no exams there, and they were learning the most toughest subjects like the Vedas. So one, we do not need a screen. Second, I personally, if you ask me, I would say let it be more of an audio than a video. Back in Gurukulas, they never used to see something and read. The teacher would repeat something and the child would repeat it 100 times. So, these kind of trainings have to be brought in right now, because with the scenario, we need to understand that this is going to extend right now, the number of cases and all. So, we are surely impacting, the child's brain in a negative way.
So, it might cause insomnia as well, right, for the kids?
Absolutely. So this blue radiation, daytime radiation does have bad effect, but otherwise screen time, when we talk, that particular study in the American Pediatric Association says that 15 minutes of exposure of blue light delays your sleep by 30 minutes.
Wow. So which means it is more in kids.
The quality is going to come down.
It is more in kids then, so the time of sleep reduction. Okay.
Yes, it's more in kids, but somewhere, I don't think the adult brain is much immune also, because this kind of addiction has proven deteriorating even in adults.
Actually, when I was talking about insomnia, like there is a lot of sleeping issues to adults these days, right? Is it should everyone sleep from 6 to 8 hours, or it depends upon the mental strength of the person? Depends upon the mental strength.
Like they say, 6 to 8 hours is something that is recommended. So there are a few people who sleep only for 6 hours. There are a few people who need probably 8 to 9 hours also. But somewhere recommended is 6 to 8 hours, because that is the time your brain needs to recoup from the damages that take part in the day-to-day activities. So there are these small damages the brain takes down throughout our day-to-day activities, and your brain repairs all of that. So that is the minimum duration of rest your brain needs, where it can repair the whole process.
So you can be more precise. Can you tell us to what time should people start sleeping? Like there are people who sleep 3 o'clock in the morning and have 7 hours of sleep. Is it good? Is it bad?
Absolutely not. Because there is a clock inside your brain also. So this is called as the biological clock. So this biological clock takes a few cues and hints from the external environment, and it produces sleep. So this biological clock every 24 hours produces sleep. Now, unfortunately, if we all go back to 10-15 years back, we were all sleeping at 8 p.m.
Yes.
Then
yes.
we started
correct.
sleeping at 9 p.m. and then it became 10, 11, 12, 1. So at one point, your brain goes into a confusion saying, dude, what are you doing with me? I mean, you're not telling me the right thing. This somewhere, is depleting for the brain's capacity again. So fixed number of hours, because of practical issues, some people have a night shift. They can only sleep at 2 a.m. But if it is 2 a.m., make sure that you are actually sleeping at 2 a.m. every day. If you realize, the most common thing that we compromise on our day-to-day lives is sleep. It can be a friend's birthday, it can be a party, it can be a movie. The first thing that we compromise is sleep. The second thing that we compromise is appetite. So the most important things, food and appetite, is what we compromise. And that is the reason for the majority of health issues that we actually see today.
It was so nice, Doctor. And I think a lot of people who are watching this live, definitely they'll consider this point of sleeping and appetite. And Doctor, I'm moving to my next question.
I asked you this question, I don't follow time. That's why I just wanted to know.